Welcome back. The SCO summit has begun in Samarkand. Prime Minister Narendra Modi remembers on a two-day visit to Uzbekistan to attend the 22nd Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. He reached Samarkand last evening and he will be sharing the stage with leaders of 7 nations. But remember, a few of these are in particular focus, mainly Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, while a bilateral with Putin is on the Prime Minister's agenda, suspense continues over whether he will hold talks with Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the summit. Now, with Russia, China and Iran, the summit is increasingly taking an anti-West stance, and therein lies India's challenge, a balancing act. Now, before he left India for Uzbekistan, the Prime Minister stated that a number of decisions for mutual cooperation in areas of trade, economy, culture and tourism are likely to be taken at the summit.
Our trade and the relations between Russia and India in general are very deep. Our relations and partnership is being shaped by strong complementarity of mutual interests and goodwill. In the current situation, as I say, it also makes the growth of trade between our countries simply natural.
All right, now I'm crossing over to our guest, former Diplomat Ambassador Anil Trigunayat. Mr. Anil, thank you so much for joining us. Essentially, what do you have to say about the possibility that Xi Jinping and the Prime Minister might meet?
Well, it is anybody's guess, but since they are likely to be in the same room, they might acknowledge each other even if the bilateral is not held. But we will come to know about this maybe in the afternoon there, after the Russian president's meeting, whether there is a possibility of the two having a bilateral summit. The only reason that I think is likely to be because India is going to be the host next year of the SCO, and therefore it makes sense to have some kind of relation or interaction. But bilateral summit, of course, they are trying to make it a little more sweeter by doing a part withdrawal from the border clashes that have been happening. But the semblance of normalcy has not arrived as yet. So not much is going to be gained out of the bilateral summit, except that it will just perhaps expedite the de-escalation on the border. So it's very difficult to say whether the two are going to meet, but of course there are other institutional mechanisms in which we work, and of course for us, from our point of view, the regional organization is extremely important, even though China will be conveying a messaging, both Russia and China, from this pedestal as well.
Right, Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, this is Akanksha Swaroop. A very good morning to you. I'd actually like to ask you about how the possibility of a bilateral may seem the possibility may seem real, but the fact that complete de-escalation has still not happened, because if we were to look at friction points like Demchuk and Depsang, the complete disengagement is yet to happen at these friction points. So how crucial is complete disengagement as far as these friction points are to be taken into consideration before the real possibility of a bilateral is actually considered between India and China?
No, you are absolutely right. I mean, with China, everything is a long haul.
Right.
So if they want to play that game, India is also ready for it. So they have taken nearly 2 years to come to this pass at the Gogra Hot Springs or patrolling point 15. But the other two Depsang plains, which is extremely important, and Demchok, they both remain to be resolved. If you consider it as the right direction, or perhaps it be expedited by the intervention of Xi Jinping, who is also himself pretty busy with his domestic problems as well as the upcoming Congress. So I think that this happens to be his first visit outside. Obviously, both sides have kept quiet about any possibility of a bilateral. But as we have repeated, India has repeated many times that business as usual cannot continue unless the border issue is resolved.
Absolutely. Ambassador, also, let's talk about the bilateral that is actually happening, and all eyes are on this bilateral, and I'm going to be talking about the bilateral between Russia and India, and that is Putin and Prime Minister Modi. Two of them. Also, it's not just about the friendship that the two nations share, but also the two heads of state, the kind of friendship that they share. We are also being told that G20 and India hosting the G20 next year, its presidency will also be featuring. How do you think is going to be India's position, considering we know of the bilateral that took place between Xi Jinping and Putin yesterday, and Putin actually made it a point to thank Xi Jinping for the balancing act and for the support that China has lent to Russia in the backdrop of the Ukraine war. Now, India has, of course, played more diplomatic when it comes to the Ukraine war. How do you think this bilateral is going to pan out now?
Well, I think this is bilateral will be a continuation of our friendship, dialogue, and strategic partnership with Russia.
Right.
It also will provide an opportunity for President Putin to inform exactly where this war is heading. Of course, the trade, oil, trade route, connectivity, INSTC, Chabahar, all those will be discussed. How the payment mechanisms in rupee-ruble trade will work out. So all those issues are there, apart from a very vast and expensive relationship that we have with Russia. There are, G20 breaks, RIC, and now this SCO, and India will be hosting SCO next year, along with, of course, the G20 is also there. So which apparently have they ruffled some feathers in the West, but they know that India knows how to have its strategic autonomy in order to serve her own national interests as well as contribute to the global peace, dialogue, and diplomacy. And that's precisely what India has been trying to work out, because there is a severe impact of this Russia-Ukraine war on the energy security, food security, and all major problems that are happening currently today can be attributed to these kind of tensions that are prevailing among the major powers.
Absolutely. Also, Ambassador, not to forget that the G7 cap on Russian oil is also shaping up. This is a very crucial time. We've also heard our External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, already make it clear, amply clear to the international community that it is India's responsibility to provide affordable oil and energy to our country. Having said that, how crucial is India's relationship right now with Russia?
Well, it is a very important relationship. As you know, I will not only say about the defense because everybody knows about it and talks about it. But in the energy security sector today, Russia has emerged as your second or third largest supplier at the moment. And they are giving heavy discounts to India. So it serves our purpose. And that's the reason that in India, we have been able to control the prices. So India has to buy from wherever it is possible at competitive rates. So that's extremely important. Apart from that, in the Civil Nuclear Cooperation and the Space Cooperation and Science Technology Cooperation, we have tremendous, programs that are going on simultaneously along with it. So this relationship has its deep roots. The country India has abstained, about 12 times on various anti-Russia resolutions that were there on the matter of principles, not necessarily just because of our relationship. So, and Russia values it much more. And people are very often talking about that no-limit relationship between China and Russia. So the credit of pushing Russia towards China actually rests with the United States and the West. There is no doubt about it. As far as Russia and India and China are concerned, I believe firmly that Russia does understand that India is required in order to geopolitically and geoeconomically leverage China in the global scheme of things, eventually.
Absolutely. Ambassador Trigunayat, I'm going to request you to stay with us. I'm also joined